By 1957, one machine was doing the work of three. The Case Model 320 tractor loader backhoe, introduced that year from Racine, Wisconsin, carried a front loader rated near 1 cubic yard, a rear-mounted hydraulic backhoe digging beyond 14 feet, and a live PTO tractor frame meant to move between jobs without a lowboy. In a single J.I. Case dealer brochure, the line read plainly, "One operator, one machine, complete excavation." Trade coverage and construction methods called it an answer to idle iron, a machine built for contractors tired of watching crews wait on each other. On a roadside sewer job outside Madison, the boom shadow stretched longer than the trench itself. Hydraulic oil hissed. Steel outran labor. It worked brilliantly, and then everyone copied it. Today, the backhoe loader still exists, but the industry that once depended on it doesn't. So how did a machine that pioneered an entire category become the one construction quietly stopped wanting? In the late 1940s, American excavation was fragmented by design. Trenching meant cable shovels. Loading meant wheel loaders. Utility work meant tractors, dragging improvised attachments. Contractors owned fleets, not solutions. At J.I. Case Racine Works, engineers like Wesley Buell, a hydraulic development specialist recorded in internal case engineering memos, were already experimenting with live hydraulics adapted from agricultural tractors. Case had credibility. That credibility came from decades of tractor manufacturing, dealer density across the Midwest, and a service culture rooted in farming uptime. A 1948 Case Service Bulletin emphasized hydraulic reliability over speed, noting seal life and oil cleanliness, boring details that would later matter enormously. Post-war utility expansion demanded flexibility, not brute force. Sewer lines, water mains, and rural electrification were jobs too small for shovels and too complex for farm tractors. The problem was not power, it was coordination. 3 machines, 3 crews, and 1 invoice bleeding profit. Case didn't begin with revolution. It earned trust quietly. Models like the Case Model S tractor and early loader attachments built a reputation for hydraulic smoothness and dealer support. Dealers in Illinois and Iowa reported fewer downtime calls compared to cable rigs, according to 1951 internal Case dealer surveys. Operators noticed lever response first. One Iowa contractor wrote in a dealer testimonial that the hydraulics don't fight you. That mattered. Early hydraulic skepticism ran deep. Leaks, contamination, and cold weather failures were common. Case countered with training. Dealer mechanics attended Racine schools where hose routing and pump tolerances were drilled like doctrine. Caterpillar still dominated earth moving, but focused on big iron. Deere was agricultural first. Case lived between worlds, combining farm durability and construction ambition. Trust wasn't loud, but it was compounding. Hydraulics were still a risk, but now they were familiar. By the mid-1950s, municipalities faced a contradiction. Utility work exploded, but budgets did not. Contractors needed fewer men, faster cycles, and machines that could travel streets legally. A 1954 Public Works magazine article described a sewer crew using a tractor loader, a rented crane, and manual trenching, with 6 men idle while 1 bucket moved dirt. Idle best describes the inefficiency. Case engineers sketched solutions directly onto tractor frames. Patent filings from 1955 show rear-mounted hydraulic excavators integrated into reinforced housings, not bolt-ons, but structural members. Integrated was the key idea. The industry did not lack machines. It lacked integration. Every job required coordination that wasted hours. Every transition meant repositioning equipment. Every invoice carried redundancy contractors could not afford. The idea was not bigger, it was smarter. What if the machine followed the job, not the other way around? The gamble was philosophical. Instead of building a dedicated excavator, Case built a multi-role machine. The Case 320 combined tractor mobility, loader lift, and backhoe excavation. All functions were hydraulic. Specs mattered. Approximately 55 engine horsepower, a rear bucket around 0.3 cubic yards, hydraulic reach exceeding 14 feet, and an operating weight under 13,000 pounds, light enough for roads, heavy enough for trenches. A Case patent diagram from that year highlights reinforced rear housings, acknowledging stress critics said would crack frames. They did not crack. Operator reaction came from a Wisconsin utility foreman in a 1958 dealer report. He said, "You finish digging, swing around, load the spoil, and drive to the next cut." Market consequence was simple. Fewer machines meant fewer payments, a contractor's dream. One machine replaced three, and accountants noticed first. Early job sites were laboratories. In Michigan clay, hydraulic backhoes faced stall pressure tests that cable machines never did. Operators complained about the feel until they learned feathering. Case manuals emphasized control finesse over brute pull. The sound changed. No cable slap, just pump whine and cylinder hiss. A construction equipment review in 1959 called the model 320 surprisingly precise for utility trenching. Precision was not a selling point yet. Productivity was, and productivity rewrote bids. Contractors discovered secondary advantages. Road legal transport eliminated lowboy costs. Single operator workflow meant simpler scheduling. Hydraulic maintenance, once feared, proved manageable with proper training. The machine did not just work faster, it worked differently. Control became profit once operators caught up. By 1960, the category had a name: tractor loader backhoe. Case expanded variants, increasing digging depth and loader capacity. Dealer count exceeded 600 locations, according to period Case annual reports, a quiet advantage. Attachments multiplied, narrow trench buckets, 4-in-1 loaders, street pads, one machine adapted to dozens of contracts, economic echo, financing simplified, one note, one insurance policy, one mechanic. For contractors operating on thin margins, the backhoe loader wasn't just efficient, it was financially elegant. Trade journals began running comparison tests. Rental yards added backhoes to fleets. Municipal bid specifications started mentioning combination machines. What had been Case's invention was becoming industry standard. When a category is named, imitation follows. On California highway jobs, backhoe loaders cut drainage ditches alongside graders. Dust-coated controls. Operators ran 8-hour days without changing seats. A dealer ad from 1962 read, "Your operator stays productive, not waiting." The physical motif emerged. The control lever cluster, compact, intuitive, human scale. It would define ergonomics for decades. This wasn't heavy excavation. It was continuous work, and continuous work favored flexibility. The machine fit tasks cable rigs couldn't justify: parking lot trenches, subdivision utilities, street repairs. Work too small for specialists, too technical for laborers. The backhoe loader filled a gap nobody had properly defined until Case built the machine that occupied it. The machine fit the man, not the pit. By the mid-1960s, the backhoe loader was everywhere. Case models like the Model 580, introduced mid-decade, pushed power towards 60 plus horsepower, deeper digs, and heavier frames. Production numbers climbed into the tens of thousands annually across manufacturers. But Case no longer stood alone. Caterpillar, Ford, International Harvester, and JCB entered aggressively, each with stronger balance sheets and broader dealer reach. Caterpillar leveraged parts, logistics developed for mining equipment. Deere used agricultural dealer loyalty. JCB specialized exclusively in construction. Innovation had worked. The category was proven. Demand was real. Now it was vulnerable. The machine that had once distinguished Case became the machine that defined competition. The pioneers were no longer the loudest voice. The Case 580 Construction King defined the peak. With improved hydraulics, reinforced frames, and operator ergonomics refined over a decade, it was widely respected. Trade literature praised reliability. Dealers sold confidence. The 580 became synonymous with the category itself, and contractors who specified backhoe often meant Case. The machine did everything it promised. Digging depth approached 15 feet. Loader lift exceeded 1 cubic yard. Uptime statistics matched tractors. Service intervals stretched longer, and now everyone else did too. Ford countered with the 555. Caterpillar launched dedicated models. JCB refined European designs for American soil. Economic pressure increased as price competition began. Margins thinned. excellence became ordinary. Caterpillar leveraged dealer density. Deere leveraged agricultural loyalty. JCB leveraged specialization. Parts logistics favored scale. Rental fleets standardized on brands with national service networks. Municipal bids specified manufacturers, not concepts. A case dealer in Ohio noted declining backhoe margins in a 1973 internal memo. The memo said, "We are competing on price now, not capability." The technology had democratized. What Case invented, competitors industrialized. Volume manufacturing drove costs down. Financing terms became competitive tools. Case still built excellent machines, but excellent was no longer exclusive. The market shifted from innovation leaders to scale operators. The machine did not fail. The market shifted. When everyone builds it, no one owns it. Recession tightened credit. Contractors delayed purchases. Used machines flooded auctions. Backhoes still worked, but resale value dropped. Financing favored big fleets with diversified portfolios. Dealers consolidated. Independent operators who had built businesses around Case loyalty found themselves comparing spec sheets where differences had narrowed to horsepower fractions. The lever cluster remained unchanged, familiar, now dated. Competitors offered cab enclosures, air conditioning, better visibility. Case updated incrementally, but momentum belonged to manufacturers who could finance dealer expansion during downturns. It wasn't dramatic, just economic. The best tool isn't immune to timing. Backhoe loaders didn't disappear, they just stopped leading. Excavators specialized. Skid steers multiplied. Fleets segmented again, ironically solving the problem the backhoe once fixed, but with newer technology. Contractors bought dedicated machines for dedicated tasks, leaning on rental networks for occasional needs. Case continued production. Models updated. The 580 line persisted, but dealer brochures yellowed. The innovation that had defined a category became maintenance of a product line. Innovation had been absorbed. The combination concept, the tractor and loader and backhoe, lived on in every competitor's catalog. The future learned, then moved on. In a field outside Madison, a backhoe loader sits rusted. The boom still swings when pushed. Hydraulics still whisper when coaxed. Seals long dried, but geometry intact. The control levers remain, the same spacing, the same arc, copied in machines built 50 years later by manufacturers whose names changed 3 times. The case badges faded. The serial plate, barely legible. The machine didn't vanish. Its necessity did. What had once been revolutionary became standard, then redundant, then nostalgic. A category born from brilliance. A solution that worked too well until the world no longer needed it to. The future they built survived. The spotlight did not. A faded case. Construction King brochure page flutters against a chain link fence. The machine's outline remains. Boom extended, bucket angled, operator silhouette visible through illustration. The text is barely legible. One operator, one machine. Around it, modern excavators roll past. Hydraulic systems refined, cabs enclosed, electronics integrated. Each one carries the ghost of what Case proved possible. The question hangs, unanswered, honest. Is innovation remembered for what it creates or for what it replaces?